A portion of this video was sponsored by Allstate.
Where do we go when everything feels like it just stays the same?
Almost every auto manufacturer currently has one or multiple crossovers in their fleet. Even exotic brands like Lamborghini, Bentley, and Aston Martin have joined the movement. The problem here is that now that everyone has one, the market is overrun with a bunch of cars that look very similar. It's kind of difficult to tell them apart. They're basically all the same car with different logos. But what has Ford done to fix this boring crossover problem? And are other car companies going to follow suit? Today on Wheelhouse, Jeremiah is going to break my ankles with a harsh crossover. It's a basketball thing, right?
A huge thank you to Allstate for sponsoring this portion of this video. That's right, you heard me. We got Allstate as a sponsor. But instead of doing a typical donut ad, they wanted us to tell you about a great opportunity they're offering. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean they're looking for motivated, community-focused individuals like you to join their team. Let me tell you, I've worked a lot of different dead-end jobs in my life, and I think we can all agree that dead-end jobs are not fun. But we've all been there, so maybe, just maybe, it's time to switch it up. So if you're interested in developing a meaningful career, then check out Allstate Sales Careers. Allstate has opportunities like agency ownership, flexible work arrangements, and honestly, the best part, full-time employment doing something you might actually like. And with 90 years of experience helping people protect what matters most, you know you're building a sales career at a company people know and trust. So whether you're an experienced insurance agent, or fresh out of college, or looking to be a part of a team, or an entrepreneur wanting to invest your capital, then click the link in the description below and start building a meaningful Allstate sales career today. Thanks again to Allstate for sponsoring this portion of this video.
I'm going to show you guys several crossovers on the screen right now. Without pressing pause, I want to see if you can tell them apart. Are you starting to see what I mean? Kinda sucks, right? Well, it hasn't always been a problem. There was a time when there were only a few crossovers on the market. And guess what? They stood out. Back in the 1990s, sedans dominated sales. The Honda Accord, Ford Taurus, and Toyota Camry were the best sellers of that decade. However, around the same time, SUVs were starting to gain popularity for their practicality, but there was a problem. They all got horrible gas mileage. Consumers had to make an annoying trade-off between having either good gas mileage or more practicality. A remedy to this problem arrived from Japan in the form of the Toyota RAV4, a fun, practical vehicle that was easy on gas and wasn't a pain in the butt to park in the city. People loved the RAV4 right out the gate, and it was followed closely by the Subaru Forester and Honda CR-V in 1997. It was so early in this new era that this segment of automobiles had yet to be named crossovers. Then, in 1998, the segment really took off with the introduction of the Lexus RX 300, setting the blueprint for how a luxury crossover should be made. And that is evident when you look at all of today's crossovers. They all have basically the same identifiable shape that can be traced back to the RX 300 from over 20 years ago. Nowadays, that traditional crossover look has started to get a little long in the tooth. Nevertheless, boring design or not, we have no one to blame but ourselves, the consumer, for the state of crossovers. Our dollar is what talks at the end of the day, and we're the ones scooping up crossover after crossover. Well, maybe not me, but... Well, actually, James is to blame. He has a crossover. Joe is to blame. He drives crossovers. Technically, Max is to blame. He has a wagon. That's kind of a crossover. I am the only blameless person at Donut. Nick has a Volvo crossover. Oh my god, I'm surrounded. The demand for them is still high, and that pressure to have an appealing crossover pushes companies to keep making them. Look at Chevy, for instance. They brought back the iconic Blazer name to put on a pretty boring crossover. And it feels like the vast majority of crossovers haven't evolved all that much over the last decade and a half. At this point, all you're doing is seeing which user interface is best and which one has the most cup holders. Pretty important. Probably the biggest innovation with the basic crossover is the introduction of EV variants of the same vehicle, like the Volvo with the XC40 Recharge, and Lexus has the all-electric UX. Actually, the popularity of CUVs has grown so much in recent years that the argument could be made that the current boring crossover has become the modern day minivan. Nowadays, families that are too cool to be rolling around in a minivan have transitioned to CUVs as their main form of transportation. But upon further inspection, outside of the sliding doors, crossovers and minivans are extremely similar. Most CUVs are front-wheel drive, unibody constructed family haulers that are optimized for cargo capacity and spacious seating, just like minivans. The only reason that they've been aging better than the minivan is because crossover design is inherently more under the radar than the traditional minivan. Their design may not scream family hauler, but truth be told, there's no meaningful difference between a CUV and a minivan. The family hauler trend is causing younger buyers to shift in a more outgoing and exciting direction when buying their crossover. Lately, there has been an increasing demand for more rugged off-road focused vehicles. Think Jeep Wrangler, 4Runner, Tacoma. Problem with those is that they're all pretty expensive. As a result, a gap has begun to form between cool body-on-frame SUVs and the basic crossovers. Back in 2019, Autocar UK talked about how Volkswagen crossovers didn't really differentiate themselves from each other enough, and this was due to the fact that they were all using the same platform. For example, Volkswagen had a platform called the MLB Evo that was used not just in their Touareg, but also in other brands like the Audi Q8 and the Porsche Cayenne. Ford noticed this issue with having so much overlap, and they might have solved it with their new C2 platform. Ford's new unibody C2 platform, designed for cars, crossovers, and vans, has been making its way into several cars in Ford's new lineup. Like we talked about before, Ford is not the first company to share platforms and parts across vehicles. That's a very old idea. All major manufacturers do this. Some of the most popular cars on the road share platforms. However, Ford is steering their new platform into a new space that is not limited just to the Ford Escape and Ford Focus. They're building new vehicles on this platform that have more utility and capability. And the biggest difference is that vehicles Ford builds the C2 platform on are diverse and not as boring. According to Joe Bacage, pretty sure it's pronounced that way, he's Ford of Europe's head of engineering, during the development of the C2 platform, quote, "We've reduced the number of parts we've engineered, we've reduced the cost of engineering, but we've offered more derivatives to suit different personalities, and that's the holy grail." Ford has applied their new platform to several new models across their lineup, which include the Focus, Escape, Lincoln Corsair, the upcoming Fusion, and most notably, the Ford Bronco Sport and Ford Maverick. Think about how diverse that lineup is. A compact economy car, a small SUV, a luxury SUV, an off-roader, and a truck, all built on the same platform. So what makes these vehicles so unique? Let's start with the new Bronco Sport, the little brother of the highly anticipated full-size Bronco. There's a long-standing stereotype of crossovers stating that while they do have some additional ground clearance, they're really just toys and not capable off-road. As annoying as that is for crossover owners to hear, the criticism for their lack of off-road capability is largely true. Ford aimed to fix this by creating a cost-effective option for its buyers while maintaining some of its off-road capability. The Bronco Sport can provide buyers with a name that has the rugged image consumers want without dealing with the lumbering size of a traditional 4x4, while still having the off-road capability to back it up. Ford modified the C2 platform by changing the wheelbase to 105.1 inches and adding their own set of anti-roll bars, new springs, and special 46mm diameter monotube rear shocks. In its base configuration, it has a ground clearance of 7.8 inches, and if you get the optional upgraded tires, it has an approach angle of 30.4 degrees, a breakover of 20.4 degrees, and a departure angle of 33.1 degrees. Those figures are better than a Jeep Grand Cherokee. These changes give the Bronco Sport relatively stout off-road ability given the type of vehicle it is. Motor Trend was elated in their review, saying, yes, the Bronco Sport is built on the same platform as the now far more road-going Escape, but you wouldn't know it from looking or driving it. And their praise continued, leading to a statement claiming that, quote, "The Bronco Sport takes far more abuse than the average owner will throw at it." That type of high praise is what will convince buyers in Ford dealerships to pull the trigger on a new Bronco Sport. Ford put a ton of effort into making sure the Bronco's little brother didn't get overlooked as a wannabe off-roader like most other crossovers. And luckily for us, Ford didn't stop there. In addition to the Bronco Sport, they also debuted a pickup truck using the same platform. They called it the Ford Maverick. My favorite place to serve, dude. With the all-new Maverick, Ford has expectations that it will not just lure people in to buy their first truck, but maybe it'll be their first Ford vehicle. Ever since they removed cars from their lineup, Ford now sees the Maverick as an entry-level vehicle into their lineup. Ford was extremely excited to point out a notable factor of the Ford Maverick's development, which was how the C2 platform actually saved them 2 whole years in development time. That's pretty significant, since it can take 3 to 5 or even 10 years to design a car from scratch. During the Maverick's development, Ford's main goal was to develop a truck for people who wanted the distinct utility of a truck without the normal size inconveniences and high price of off-road trucks currently on the market. It's only about 4 inches longer than a Honda Accord at about 200 inches and is exactly the same width, making the Maverick a more manageable vehicle to drive on a daily basis for people not used to the size of a mid-size or half-ton truck while still having a 4.5-foot bed. They also have plans to offer a whole array of Ford accessories for the truck bed. Keith Daughtry, an engineering specialist involved in the Maverick box design, explained that, quote, "The whole bed is a DIY fan's paradise. You can buy the bolt-in Ford cargo management system, and we're happy to sell it to you. But if you're a bit more creative, you can also just go to the hardware store and get some C-channels and bolt to the bed to make your own solutions." There's even a Ford FlexBed QR code in the bed that owners can scan and get cargo carrying ideas. And just in case you think those are just statements they're making for marketing purposes, in August 2021 in Dallas, Texas, during a dealer meeting, a whole fleet of Ford Mavericks were spotted with a ton of Ford available add-ons already installed on the trucks. It's safe to say that Ford put real time and effort into ensuring that the Maverick is an actual pickup truck, not just a truck built on a crossover platform. That is to be expected, since Ford also has tons of experience designing and manufacturing their best-selling F-150. So far, all this effort Ford has put into the Maverick's development looks promising, and the public seems to agree. I really think they're cool. There have already been 100,000 pre-orders, and a fair amount of them are the hybrid version, so that's pretty cool. While we're on the topic of electric powertrains, Ford continued with their execution of the C2 platform with another vehicle you may have already heard about. Not too long ago, Ford debuted their new EV crossover, the Mustang Maki. Technically, its platform is called the GE1, but after doing a little research, turns out the GE1 platform is a modified version of the C2 that we've been discussing. That means the C2 platform is currently being used for a compact off-roader, a light off-road truck, and a mid-size EV crossover, and not to mention all the other standard vehicles it's being used for, like the Escape, Focus, and Lincoln vehicles. This is an amazing level of flexibility. The C2 is nothing short of a home run for Ford. Now, some of you might be watching this and be saying, okay, Nolan, yeah, sure, Ford made some neat little cars. What's the big deal? You know what? That's a fair question. When looking at the big picture, why is this so important? Well, the answer is impact. The creative boom Ford is experiencing will make waves, and hopefully those waves are hitting other automakers as well and creating a widespread trend across the entire car industry. Some might say it's already started. The most obvious example is with Hyundai and the new Santa Cruz crossover pickup truck, which is another light truck based on a car platform and likely a direct competitor to the Ford Maverick. Some might say the Maverick is the competitor because the Santa Cruz is already here. Look, I surfed in Santa Cruz too, I do prefer Mavericks. Automakers are seeing that people are responding positively to this new version of crossovers with an emphasis on ruggedness and utility. Some companies already saw this rising trend and have begun modifying vehicles they already have to be more interesting than the base product. Models like the Subaru Outback Wilderness, Toyota RAV4 TRD Off-Road, Honda Ridgeline HPD, and the Volvo V90 Cross Country are out there for sale, ready for people who want their crossovers to have a little more spice. The era of boring crossovers is coming to an end, and one sign at Ford is that they're finally canceling the Edge, another frankly boring crossover, in favor of new EVs. Ford is currently leading the charge for a more exciting crossover market. They've done incredible work developing the C2 platform and an even better job implementing it into a line of new exciting vehicles. The Bronco Sport is an affordable, compact, capable off-roader, and the Maverick is a usable truck at a manageable size and price. And even the Mustang Maki is a cool crossover for the inevitable EV future. I've heard tons of great things about the Maki, heard really good things about the Bronco Sport. You know, it's not the big boy. It's not the big boy. It's not the big Bronco. Everyone knows that. But the little one is pretty cool too. All of these vehicles were designed for the common man or woman, but more importantly, Ford didn't get trapped making some boring vehicles with about as much personality as a floor mat. They made cool cars that get people excited to drive them and maybe adventure out and try outdoorsy things they might not have done otherwise in their Tiguan or their Nero or Rogue or whatever. Larger, more traditional automakers usually don't go out on a limb to try to develop a new car for a niche market and risk losing time and money. But fortunately for all of us, Ford actually dived in and came out with some pretty exciting stuff. And that's a great sign for both regular car buyers and car enthusiasts alike. Thank you very much for watching Wheelhouse. I know crossover's kind of boring, but I think that there's change in the winds, you know? We've been doing this crossover thing for like 20 years now. It's time to spice it up, and I think it's happening. If you're a donut super freak, click that join button down below. Maybe consider joining the Donut Underground. It's a subscription where you get access to our official Discord channel. I hop in there every once in a while. You get exclusive videos that no one else gets. They're really good. You get director's cuts of high-low episodes. You get exclusive merch offers. You get stickers, all this stuff. It's really great. Check it out. Be kind. Take your Bronco Sport off-road. I'll see you next time.